Let me see who else.
I'm pausing it now.
Okay.
Going to call, thank you, Richard. I'm going to call this annual meeting of the town planning. What are we calling ourselves? The review of the town, annual review of the town planning.
Yep.
To order. I think this is about our fourth or fifth such meeting. It was one of the recommendations in the 2010 town plan. So the purpose of that was to remind people in various organizations in town that the town plan exists, and we all need to remain aware of it.
Actually, Anna, you're giving yourself short thrift. This is about the fifth or sixth that you've been, and probably 3 or 4 before you.
Oh,
You've
okay.
been.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Error.
No.
I just finally found the notes that I wrote. I want to thank everyone who's attending. In my book, the way Cornwall is run almost exclusively by volunteers is such a unique situation, and I consider all the volunteers heroes. Just want to say that. I also want to give you a little background on the history of planning at the municipal level in Connecticut. It was an idea that was turned into state law as early as 1949 in Connecticut. The law itself is Chapter 126, and it's been evolving ever since, adding more and more elements for consideration. In 2016, the law was amended to exclude towns that lacked a 10-year town plan from consideration for discretionary state funding. Cornwall's first town plan, back around 1949, merely consisted of a map laying out zoning districts with suggested changes in the zones added to the map. That map was hand-drawn by individual commissioners who added different elements. Our last document in 2020 was 22 pages long. And for the people who might listen to this who are new in town, I'm just going to quickly describe what the process was. We started with a public forum held at the Cornwall School Gym in the fall of 2017. It was really a well-attended event, at which time we set up 4 subcommittees and held multiple roundtable discussions. We also had idea boards with people putting sticky notes of ideas on the idea boards, and then informal voting on those ideas. 4 subcommittees addressing economic development, housing, natural resources, and youth and cultural resources were set up. These were chaired by members of the Planning and Zoning Commission, with a total of 20 citizen volunteers participating on those subcommittees. 4 of our 9 current commissioners were part of that process. And most of us will probably hope to retire before the 2030 town plan comes around. It was a lot of work. This was the first time a Cornwall town plan had officially considered the needs of young people in town. There had not been a youth subcommittee previously. Each subcommittee held many meetings and ultimately created a list of goals and suggested strategies to meet those goals. These goals were tested through a townwide survey that yielded 321 responses, 100 of which were from part-time residents. Further refinement of the town plan document followed. A public hearing was held on November 12, 2019, exactly 2 years since the start of the process, in which the town hall was packed. Again, changes were made in response to public input, and the 2020 town plan was approved. The reason I think it's important to dwell on this history is that those of you who weren't here at the time can understand the degree to which our town plan actually reflects the desires of the citizens of Cornwall. I had intended to go over all the goals and read them, but I don't think I will. It's just 4 minutes of a monologue, and you can all look at the town plan yourself. So at this point, I'm going to ask the different organizations in town to give us a brief report in what way their organization contributed to the goals in the current town plan. And I'm going to let Karen be in charge of who goes first.
I would
Actually,
make
it was supposed to be Simon.
then I think you should give first
Keep talking. Okay.
to Mr. Gordon Ridgway, the Board of Selectmen, and
Okay.
all three of his board, because Jen and Rocco are all here as well.
Okay, perfect. Gordon.
Yeah, good evening. If you can find Simon, I'll be glad to yield the floor, as I know he's got another meeting to go to. Yeah, so anyway, yeah, welcome, and I'm glad our fellow board members are here. We had 2 meetings, one about housing, one about emergency planning yesterday. So we have a very active board, 2 new members, but very much engaged and in what's going on in town. We set our goals for the upcoming term last month, and a lot of our goals for things we hope to accomplish reflect a lot of the goals of the town plan. So there is, overlap again between trying to move the town forward in a coherent, organized, necessary way. But as this is looking back over the year, there has some of the actions that were taken by the previous board are also important. And I think I can just quickly go over the 4 categories, some things that we have done to help further the 4 goals of starting with economic development. On a day-to-day basis, we do help with business development. I think my office is aware of how fragile businesses can be in town. We were sad to lose Frank's Restaurant down in West Cornwall. That may reopen, but even with hard work, full houses, it's a challenge to run a business in Cornwall. We're glad to have the market open again in Cornwall Bridge, but again, that is takes a lot of determination to take that risk to open something like that up. And we are lucky to have a good supportive economic development commission that also helps to help businesses along. And I think also on the positive side, we've sort of positioned ourselves as promoting in the town plan recreational businesses. And it was great to have the governor come to Mohawk Mountain last week to say that's one of the things. They're having a new initiative on the state level to promote businesses like Mohawk Mountain, which is on state property. It's a privately owned business, but it's been in business for over 70 years and does a great job getting people outside for recreation. So from the governor on down, it was good to make those connections. We have also, we're plugging away with getting the West Cornwall wastewater project through the regulatory process. We're almost there. Our public comment period is over. We've finished today. I've finished responding to the one non-anonymous comment that we got. So hopefully we'll be able to get into the federal government releasing funds and get into design phase on that. One thing that was mentioned in the town plan was redevelopment of the some of the former industrial areas in Cornwall Bridge, and we did sell the tax liens on those properties And that process will be complete in a couple more months, but hopefully we'll see some positive activities there on those previously underused properties. So that was a good thing that happened last fall. On housing, that is one of the top priorities of our board. We did get a ordinance through the town meeting in November to establish a affordable housing commission, taking it from a task force to a commission level with a specific charge of how to move that issue forward. And in the spring, we will, I think, advance another ordinance to set up a fund, partially town funded, but could also receive private funds for a land acquisition fund and housing fund for that commission to use. So those again are things that are in the town plan, and we've achieved a couple of things there. It's still a big lift. I mean, housing is a nationwide issue more and more. Homelessness, and again, the part of it is there's very little, even though the prices have skyrocketed, there's very little. You would think with the high prices there'd be a lot more supply, but as this is happening nationwide, there's very few affordable places for people to move to. So there's not a great, there's a very tight supply of housing on all levels in Cornwall. So again, we're looking at taking some concrete steps in the next year. The newly elected chair of the Housing Commission is former chair of Planning and Zoning, Jill Cutler. And I think it's a good balanced board with a lot of potential to really, we've had a lot of meetings, we've had a lot of planning, and we're trying to really get some projects launched to make a dent in the housing issue in town, because that spills over into so many things as far as it's hard for businesses to find employees, staffing, volunteer agencies, and down there, if people are not in town, if not able to live here, then you can't expect the services of the volunteers. On resources, it's sort of been a year of extreme weather and extreme nature events that wasn't, specifically mentioned in the town plan. So again, any more than say the pandemic was mentioned or anticipated. There's some things you can't anticipate. But certainly that has become front and center on what our board has to do. We have dusted off and reviewed the town's hazard mitigation plan, and we're looking towards doing some resiliency planning also to strengthen our infrastructure. We met last night and discussed the newly digitized town emergency plan, which deals with natural and man-made emergencies. And we're very lucky to have Diane Beebe as our emergency management director. The new copy of the town emergency plan weighs in at 380 pages. Not necessarily a light read, but it's just amazing how much is out there, how much is expected of each municipality, even the smallest ones, to deal with these emergencies that are coming up. As far as conserving our resources, we are still working together with this state, trying to get licensed to do a composting operation at the landfill. And we're also working with the state green bank to look at the feasibility of doing a major solar installation for the municipality, so that we would get perhaps most of our power as a town from solar electric. There's a lot of good legislation from the state level that has encouraged this type of activity, and other towns have done this in the area, and we feel optimistic that Cornwall can do something to really be a good example of what can happen in the next generation of power and resource conservation. Community, culture, and youth. We have instituted a newsletter called Town Hall News to inform people. That again was suggested by the town plan. Uh, Park and Rec has done a great job, among other people, to encourage social events. It's great to see a lot of those things which are really important to the community and to individuals' well-being to come back, from pickleball to there's now contra dancing back in the town hall on Saturday nights. So those type of things I think are really important to the community, and whatever we can do to assist that, we will. One of the new goals of the Board of Selectmen is trying to increase some of the recreational opportunities for people in town. And then also we are still concerned, as much as we were before the pandemic, with the plight of our young people in town trying to stay in town. Most of the 20-year-old demographics that are in town, I believe, are staying at their parents' houses. I appreciate the Planning and Zoning Commission has done more to make possible accessory dwelling units, so maybe the younger generation can have their own space. But again, it's still a big lift. Litchfield County, I think, has one of the highest percentages of young people living at home of any county in the state, and Connecticut has the second highest percentage of young people living at home of any state. First place in New Jersey, in the United States. So I mean, that shows the determination, I think, of young people to stay here, but also the scarcity of housing. So that again is a big lift. Optimistically, if housing is available, we have had a good uptick in people volunteering to be on the emergency medical squad and fire department. We did attract some younger pre-trained people from other towns. They're able to settle in town, and it made a big difference in our ability to provide public safety. So that seems to be pretty strong, even without huge financial incentives. I think the biggest incentive is being able to live here. So that's it from here. I promise Karen I'll get something in writing to her out of all this, but thank you. I mean, I think it's a good plan, even though we've gone through the pandemic and life has changed in many ways. I think the fact that the plan is still very relevant, to our board and to the community shows it's a solid plan.
Gordon, that was really impressive. Thank you.
Is that okay? Not too long?
Perfect. Who's next, Karen?
I would say Bart Jones. Bart, where are you?
He needs to unmute.
I'm here.
Okay.
And thank you for Anna for having this review. So many plans for long range plans get put on a shelf and never looked at until the end of the time in which the plan is supposed to expire. So this is very valuable. I sent a written report in. I'll summarize. There were 5 goals that we addressed. The Cornwall Conservation Trust was started in 1987. And last year, in the category of protecting open space, we acquired 26 acres on Cornwall Hollow Road, adjacent to the Mohawk Trail and the 140-acre Robinson and Evans Preserve. It's called the Boyum Preserve. David and Ingrid Ellen generously helped acquire that property. The second thing that we're in the process of acquiring is Quarry Hill from Harry Smith and Sam Waterston. It's 34 acres. You can see it from behind the town hall that goes across the ridge line there and connects to Cathedral Pines. It also has a historic quarry on it. So that's a ridge line that will be forever protected. The other thing we did in 2022 was to sign a forever wild easement on 350 acres on Johnson Road. Essentially what that means is we won't log it, and we will let the natural processes evolve. It's with the Northeast Wilderness Trust. We can still do lots of things like trails and remove invasives, but that means that will be habitat and protected for that period of time, forever. The second thing, the goal was to establish and maintain an open space inventory. And I put that in my report. Just briefly, the Conservation Trust now conserves 2,300 acres approximately. That's about 8% of the land mass in Cornwall. Over 55% of the owned properties, approximately 1,000 acres, were donated to the Cornwall Conservation Trust. And so that inventory is ongoing and hopefully will continue to grow. Another goal was to encourage gifts of land and conservation easements. And just as I reported, over 50% of the land was donated. Just as an aside, the Day Preserve, when I was in college, I had a roommate and his aunt was Nancy Sales Day. And I had no idea that she would have donated 180 acres, that I would then be president of those in charge of it 60 years later. A small world. The next item was to address the proliferation of invasive species. And we have been working with the Greenprint, which is run by HVA, about 20 land trusts, and talk about how we could go about attacking invasives. And the Conservation Trust itself has worked with Bob Gambino to get rid of Japanese knotweed and Phragmite around the rattlesnake preserve. And the last thing, and it ties into what Gordon mentioned, the governor and recreation, it's to promote our natural resources to attract visitors and create new business opportunities. The Conservation Trust maintains 16 hiking trails, and this year we're going to make it the year of the trails and get people out hiking. But those trails, all of them are different, and they attract a lot of young people, a lot of people my age, a little on the older side, and they're great opportunities for recreation in Cornwall. So that's basically our report for 2023. Those are the goals that I wanted to address in my report, and that's my report.
Another hero volunteer.
Yep.
Thank you, Art.
Thank
Art,
you.
While we have you fresh from a Housatonic River Commission meeting, would you like to give us an update on your busyness with wild and scenic designation?
Yeah, that's a really positive development. Just as a quick piece of history, the Housatonic River Commission was established in 1979 as an alternative to the federal wild and scenic commissions. I think the New Englanders were saying, we don't want those federales messing with us. And that meant that our annual budget was $4,000 a year since 1979. The biggest accomplishment we had during that period, besides the management plan for the river, was to have all the towns have a planning and zoning overlay on the Housatonic River with both an inner corridor and an outer corridor, restricting the kinds of things that can be done in those two sections. And that was very positive. So what happened in 2022, Congress approved our application for wild and scenic for the 41-mile stretch of the river from Massachusetts border to Boardman Bridge in New Milford. That meant that the 7 towns now have a budget of over $130,000. That's sort of like the dog that caught the bus. Instead of $4,000 a year, we now manage $130,000 a year. But most importantly, we don't have any regulatory authority, and we have to work with those entities, particularly planning and zoning, the town selectmen, and inland wetlands, to implement much of the things that we could do with that 130,000. I recommend you look at the website for the Farmington River to get an idea of where the Housatonic River Commission might be in a year or two. We're in the process of redoing the management plan. We have now got a part-time person to help us. And we've added non-voting members to the board. There are 14 voting members, 2 from each town. And then we've added HVA, First Light, and the National Park Service as non-voting members to join COGS and DEEP as members of our commission. So we're stewards of the river, and we want to hear from everyone. What needs to be done? What could be addressed? And we hope to apply this federal money, which really is going to come in annually, assuming there's not a train wreck in Congress, but never can tell about that. And address some of the pressing issues, help address some of the pressing issues along this stretch of the river. It will also attract people to the river, and that means more economic opportunities in Cornwall and the 7 towns. So that's a big change for the Housatonic River Commission. Going forward, those people who volunteer to be members from the towns are going to have a lot more work, but that's good.
Thank you, Bart. Okay, I would suggest we go to the Conservation Commission.
Makes sense.
Thank you, Karen, and thank you, Anna, for hosting. And it's a little hard going after Bert because that was so impressive. And I will say I prepared a statement of the specific things the Conservation Commission has been working on, which I hope will be available to people, because I opted not just to read it, but to read a sort of more general statement about who I think the Conservation Commission is today. So if you'll excuse me, for it's fast and faster if I read it. So I'll just start by saying that the Cornwallian natural world is changing in response to what scientists call anthropogenic impacts, which really just means the stuff that people do. The natural world is responding to actions that we take. And it's also responding to changes in weather patterns and weather events. So in the face of this changing world, the Conservation Commission serves as a resource for our town to keep the natural world a little bit more in balance as we face those impacts. Keeping the natural world in balance isn't just the right thing to do, because we're stewards of the land of this beautiful Cornwall, although that might be justification enough. It's also the smart thing to do, because these impacts are expensive in terms of the services they deliver. Our natural world delivers our forests, our soils and biota, our water bodies deliver very real services, and we wind up paying one way or another if the natural world isn't in balance. We pay through things like mudslides and impacts to infrastructure, or maybe just a loss to your favorite hunting or fishing spot because you can't get through those really thorny invasive plants. So to that end, the Conservation Commission monitors, we educate, and we take action. And we take these 3 approaches in the systems that are near and dear to our hearts, in our wetlands, our water bodies, our fields and forests. And all of the work that we undertake is in alignment with the plan of conservation development, to ensure that we are in alignment with a plan that's been vetted by a larger representation than just the Conservation Commission. And so I hope you'll read our report of what it is that we've specifically been doing over this past year.
Beautifully stated. Thank you, Heidi.
Heidi, your report is already up on the Cornwall website, by the way. I posted it last week. So, Ginny Block, Cornwall Housing Corporation.
Okay, I'm going to talk about housing in general over the past year. One of the main goals for housing is to increase the number of housing units by 25 over the next 10 years. And we haven't added any this year, but we have made some progress. The Housing Corporation has been working in the past year to get funding to do pre-development work and build on the parcels that we currently own. We have one on Dark Entry and two at Potter Woods up on Town Street. We've just approved the hiring of a contractor to do the pre-development work, all the clearing, and we'll use the ARPA money that was awarded by the town for this. We've been told by the Department of Housing that we'll get funding to build houses on these lots. The houses will be sold to applicants who are near 80% of the current area median income, and they'll probably be priced at $250,000. We have been in contact with Cornwall Conservation Trust to have potential landowners consider a portion of their potential preserved property being provided to Cornwall Housing Corporation to be used for housing. And we are exploring this further in our participation in the Greenprint Collaborative Grant Program. And one of the anticipated outcomes for that program is the identification of potential areas and or parcels for affordable housing development. Another of the housing goal is to support first-time home buyers and those seeking housing opportunities. And the applicants for the parcel program, where the land is leased and people own the house, will be given information on a program called Time to Own. It's a Connecticut Housing Finance Authority program for first-time home buyers, where they will be given a loan that will be forgiven for the deposit. Jessica Brackman, Cornwall's housing advocate and a member of the Housing Task Force, which is now the housing, which grew out of which has, most of the members have become members of the Housing Commission. Jessica's been working on communication and community outreach. She has published several items on the town website and is planning to have regular newsletters, as well as other communication on social media. And Gordon did mention that there is now a housing commission. And what I just wanted to note is that the meetings will be held on the last Thursday of the month on Zoom, and they're open to the public. And that commission has prioritized finding sites for multifamily rental housing. And just to mention the great work of planning and zoning, which has eased regulations for accessory dwelling units and allowed second accessory dwelling units on a site through a special permit. So we're working to provide more places to live for those who work in so many capacities in our town.
Thank you, Ginny.
Yep.
You're another hero volunteer. You all are. I just can't get over how much work you give to our town. Who's
And
next?
We have another volunteer, Michelle, who is actually making our quorum for our Planning and Zoning Commission, and she is available because her flight changed. And so if you open the floor to her, I'm gonna go see if I can get,
I have it. I have it
Okay.
available right here to share.
okay. And she would like to talk, and I'm gonna
Thanks,
see if
Anna.
I can get Simon on FaceTime. So-
Yeah.
If you would rather, I can do my presentation instead of you, but screen sharing from you would be great. Thank you.
There's part one, Michelle.
Thank
Is
you.
that part one? Yes.
No, that's part two.
All right. We'll try again.
Sorry.
Here's part one. Sorry about that. There you go.
There we go. Thank you. All right. So this is just a review of what Park and Rec has done to meet the goals for our plan of town conservation and development. So if you can go to the next slide for, thanks, Anna. Let's see. There we go. One of our goals for Park and Rec is to meet the needs of Cornwall's older residents, including transportation, healthcare, social and recreational opportunities. So under healthcare, Park and Rec continues to hold COVID and flu vaccines, In 2023, we held 2 vaccines and vaccinated over 250 people. So that works to help keep us healthy and able to be out there.
I'm working on it.
Thank you. One of our other goals is to enhance recreational and social opportunities. So starting with our older residents, what you'll see is that Park and Rec offers community meals. Previously, it was called senior breakfast or senior lunch, but a lot of you don't think you're seniors. So we've rebranded into the name of community meals. You know, if you're home during the day and you're someone that needs some social interaction, we want you to come out and have a meal with us. The meal is secondary. The social interaction is really what we're there for. But lunches are the second Tuesday of every month, starts at noon, and it's held at UCC. The breakfast are the fourth Tuesday of every month. And in fact, Jen just hosted one by herself this morning. God bless her for being that all on her own this morning while I'm away. And that is at 9 a.m. at the UCC Parish House. And we've had such a great success with this that we actually added a third opportunity this year, and that we added a social hour. It's drop in, no RSVP needed, but it's the third Wednesday of every month. And this year we'll be doing at the UCC Parish House. It's Wednesdays, 3 to 4 p.m. It's really great and a really fun activity.
Michelle, it's the third Wednesday of the month.
Thank you, Jen. Third Wednesday of the month. And our lunches, we're up to about consistently 40 people now each month for lunch, and breakfast is usually around 20. And it's starting to show that Cornwall needs its own community center. We're busting at the seams over at the Parish House. So that'll be something I think Park and Rec will be looking in the future to be working towards. All right, next one, Anna. This is just also we have outings. After COVID, we didn't have a few, but last year we got to have one, and boy, did we have a great time. Jen planned a great one. We went all over Cornwall, Goshen, and Litchfield. We stopped at the Northern Farm and Flowers, and Kara Weigold gave us a tour of their new place. We also saw the Cornwall Bridge Gardens and the Blue Gate Farm Bakery. Who could also pass up Thorncrest for some chocolate. You'll see in this picture, we were going to Bantam Bread. We had lunch in Litchfield. We did have a stop at the Litchfield Distillery, and it was very interesting to learn how they make their things. And we had some samples, which was super fun too. And we ended our day, you could see in one of the pictures, at the top of Mohawk. Really fun. A lot of us got to see across and see that Cream Hill hayfield, and so it was great to see some sights of Cornwall and get out and about for a beautiful day.
And many of the seniors hadn't gotten up to the top of Mohawk in many, many years too. So
Wow.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. And that leads us to the next one, which is transportation. And here's all of us on our Goshen senior bus that day for our field trip. And we are so grateful for that. You've heard Jen and I talk about transportation being an issue. And although the senior bus does provide transportation, it has limitations. It is only for seniors. So if you don't qualify in that age range, you can't get a ride. And a lot of young adults need rides. The other thing is it doesn't cross state lines. So if you have something you want to go to that's in New York or Mass, a doctor's appointment, you cannot take that bus. So transportation is limited. It also doesn't do weekends and nights. And so many of our residents can't get to events that are held in town because the bus doesn't run. So we're looking into perhaps partnering with social services and getting the FISH program with Driving Our Neighbors back started. That would be a partnership also perhaps with the Cornwall Foundation. But it is a goal that the Plan of Conservation and Development has that we are a partner in. And so we're looking forward to working with all the other agencies in town to address some transportation issues in the coming year. Sports. Sports is another goal for us. What we found is as our children's population has dwindled and the age ranges has spread, it's really hard to host a just all Cornwall sports team. So instead, the towns have gone to regional park and rec. So the Region 1 towns, some of them band together and offer regional sports. We've had great success with basketball, soccer, some gymnastics. We did tennis. There was some pickleball this year for the younger ones. So regional is working out well. We would like to be able to offer some local Cornwall maybe clinics for our kids. And if you're someone who wants to coach sports, please reach out to Park and Recs. We would be happy to talk with you about hosting some clinics and things. But when we have kids that range from 5 to 14, it's difficult to field one team. So we're looking to be creative of what we can do in Cornwall. But we do have adult sports, pickleball, kids can play pickleball. Footfield had a new court put in that shares with the basketball court. And then we had some great success last year with our junior tennis team winning a championship. And congratulations to the team and Todd Piker for all their hard work. I was going to say, before we go, I love this picture. I had to include it because for our spring celebration, we had a little April Fool's event. And here you can see the Grinch and Santa are playing basketball with the kids.
So you have a part 2 as well, don't you, Michelle?
Yes, I do.
I'm going to just stop the share for a second and find it.
Thank you.
Okay. Good Lord. Which one is it? This one.
There we
No.
go.
Yeah.
And so that leads me into our goal is enhancing recreational and social activities for opportunities within our community. The goal really focused on young adults, but Park and Rec is focusing on all ages, including young adults. So making a variety of events. So we have a lot of annual events now that cover all ages. As I said, our spring celebration this year was super fun. It happened to coincide with April Fool's Day. So the Grinch and Santa showed up, as well as the Easter Bunny. And after a little discussion, they all worked it out and became great friends. Halloween, we had our annual soup dinner with a potluck aspect to it, and that the soups were brought by people in town. And then we had a chili cook-off, which was a great success. And I'm happy to say that the Park and Rec venison chili that had been served earlier that month at the luncheon, it won for the chili cook-off. So we serve some good food at those community meals. You might want to stop in. We also had trunk or treat for Halloween. And thanks to Hall's Garage for making some fabulous fire pits that made cozy gathering spaces. And then also I want to thank C&M Karting. They partnered with us for trash. So after everybody left, they came back and picked up all the trash that night.
Wow.
It's been a great partnership with our local businesses. Santa and the Grinch made an appearance again in December with a pasta dinner at the school. They had a little pickup basketball game with the kids, while the 8th graders at CCS holded a craft activity area, as well as a silent auction to raise funds for their school trip. It's been a great opportunity to partner with CCS 8th graders to help them raise money for that event. And our town picnic is held at the town beach at Hammond Beach. This year it was a little bit of challenge between rain, thunder, smoke, everything else. We were quite delayed, but we persevered and it was a great event. People swam and the Ag Commission, I think, outdid themselves with supersized sundaes. And it was a really good time. I hope that people look for our Park and Rec events calendar. We have a busy one coming up for this coming summer season and into the spring. July and August, we had our July Fest. And then in August, we had our 2nd annual Taste of Cornwall. July Fest had a band, a couple of food trucks. I'd like to just plug this now. We already have our band booked for July Fest and our date. The band is Two Blue. They're a swing bluegrass band. We have several food trucks and we're working on more. And then the second annual Taste of Cornwall last year was with the Hen House Prowlers, bluegrass ambassadors, international ambassadors. And we were lucky enough to get them in between some European tour, and they were playing the Podunk Festival. At last year's Taste of Cornwall, the Park and Rec Commission made most of the food, and I'm super proud of our commission for the work they did that year. They cooked, served, and put on a great event to, again, partner with businesses. One of the goals, besides creating social opportunities, is that we attract visitors to help promote businesses in our town. And both of those events had people from areas all around, far and wide in the northwest corner came to those events. So they're really starting to see what Cornwall has to offer. And with the August event, we had, I believe it was close to 26 business sponsorships that helped to put on that event. And people got to see the businesses that we had in town, but it also highlighted our nonprofits. We had a Helping Hands row where nonprofits could get out there and let people know what they were doing and how they could get involved or help. So again, putting a plug in, third annual Taste of Cornwall is set. It'll be that similar weekend. And again, we have a band booked, Green Thief coming to us from the Boston area, a great country band. And the menu will be fabulous. We'll be sponsors and a similar event. So take a look at that. We
Michelle,
yeah.
Michelle, we also just want to say we also at the Taste of Cornwall, we also had over 325 people attending. So
Yes.
it's definitely drawing in people to our town.
And that's up from the previous year where we were just, we were over about 200. So we are growing. And as Jen says, I do want to share that our events are catching on. We've had several bands reach out to Jen and I and ask if they could get on our Cornwall agenda for summer events. So we're starting a waiting list, which is pretty exciting. And then we've started movie nights. We don't have a specific time, but we're doing some in the winters. And I really want to thank anyone and everyone who's attended our movie nights for the patience. I will say we've had some technical difficulties and we're learning, but our Cornwall kids are great. They just get up and entertain themselves and stick it out. And then they come back when we figure it out. And if we don't, we just have a good night together. So we are still trying those movie nights. So stick with us. We're working on sound systems. And this year we had one in partnership with Friendsgiving. Park and Rec hosted a potluck Friendsgiving feast before Thanksgiving. We had a wonderful time with people who came out and had dinner. And like I said, the kids played and it was a really nice evening. Nice to gather before things got hectic at the holidays. And then we had our first annual Clean Up Cornwall for Earth Day. Again, partnering with C&M Karting. We are going to do that again this year. Last year it was a weekend event, but we found one day is just enough. So be on the lookout. A day to put on your vest, walk the streets of Cornwall, whatever your favorite area is, and clean up Cornwall. You'll be amazed at what you find on the streets. All right. Another goal is to promote our natural resources and attract visitors and create new business opportunities. And one of the things we're proud of is partnering with the Little Guild. Footfield is their temporary location while they rehab, and I think of a great business that we would like to keep in town. As a nonprofit, they are a business, though, that brings people to town. I think we can all know people who have wonderful furry friends in their house thanks to the Little Guild. So they've done a great job, and I have to say we're super excited at all the leveling and things they've done where their trailer is. We see a lot of advantages of perhaps homes for extra pickleball courts or basketball courts. And the nice thing is the Little Guild is willing to work with us. And as they're done, we can work out where some of the work has already been done for us to revamp Footfield. And that is something we're considering is we have a plan. We'd like to make Footfield used. It's underused now that our sports aren't happening in Cornwall like it used to be. So one of the things we're talking about is that upper soccer field, turning it into a recreational field, adding a really creative playground for the kids, some physical fitness apparatus for adults, a walking trail, like a whole bunch of things to make that a really fun, all ages recreational use area, while still continuing to have a soccer field because we have that lower field, and retaining our baseball field. We've had so many suggestions, which brings me to a survey. Park and Rec was doing a survey. It technically closed, but we are willing to leave that survey open for you for the end of the month. So anyone who hasn't taken the survey, please visit Park and Rec website, and you can get a link. There's an online, or if you'd prefer, you can print out a paper one and mail that in for us. So we have a lot of ideas to turn Footfield into an area. And I think the more people that come to Footfield, that again increases visitors and business opportunities. And just to sum it up, here's our great picture of some of our team. And I really want to say that Park and Rec has a fabulous team. We are a commission of 9. We do have one opening available. And if you're interested, please reach out to Jen and I, and we can kind of talk about what it is to be on Park and Rec and to work with us. But at all our events, we see residents from infants to the other end of that spectrum. And it's great to see all ages out, gathering together, having friends. Community is so important. And that's been a mission of Park and Rec in the last few years, is to bring us out and gather, have an opportunity to talk and just build our community and what are our ideas, and come together with positive ideas and conversations. So if you haven't attended an event, please look and come. They're a lot of fun. And if you need a ride to an event, please reach out. Even if we don't have something in place, we do know people who are willing to give rides, and we can start a network. We're reaching out to friends. We would love everyone to come who wants to come. And that's it. I present this on behalf of a chair. I am the voice of many. So I thank our commission for all of their hard work, and I thank everybody in town who comes out to support us.
I'm just agog. What can I possibly say? Wow.
Yep.
It's all about the people on the commission, though.
I get it, and
If I didn't have such a supportive commission, we would not be doing all the things we do.
Well, those people are worth $1 million to this town.
They're priceless.
We could never hire a recreation director. You know, some towns do that.
I will say, keep up with Kent and see what they're going through for their Park and Rec team, and what their Park and Rec director makes, and they're hiring an assistant.
Yeah.
And I no offense to them, but with a lot less, we do an amazing amount of work, and that is by the volunteers. Every person on our commission gives all that they can give, despite how much they work, their families. They really give a lot, and it is a true teamwork. So I'm very proud to be able to be a spokesperson for them.
We appreciate you. All right, we have to move on.
Our moving on is Mr. Hewitt is already at an EDC meeting. He cannot get on, and he does not have FaceTime. So I have invited him to come to our next P&Z meeting and make his presentation at the meeting when we can get it back up on screen, and he's amenable to that.
That's perfect.
And I think we have gone through everybody that I see.
What about Katie Frygang?
Oh, Katie. All right. I apologize. Where
Are you
is
still
Katie?
there, Katie? Good.
I
Okay.
am still here.
I'm sorry. I went up I didn't go out all the way up the list. I'm sorry, Katie.
No
would-
problem. No problem. This is a wonderful event. I'm having so much fun hearing what everybody's doing. Well, I wear many hats in town, but I'm going to wear the sustainable CT hat tonight. And it's a little bit hard to do this without having EDC go first, because sustainable CT is designed to support all the town committees and its residents. And this year, most of our support action has been with EDC. So I was kind of going to let them croon and then say, yep, and we're there supporting you. Anyway, but in our POCD, we have 14 actions where Sustainable CT has developed programs that are supportive. And this year we've been acting on 5 of them, particularly with the Economic Development Committee, the Conservation Commission, and the Cornwall Consolidated School. With the EDC, we've been developing roundtables to provide resources and support for local businesses. Also, we've been beginning to engage in discussions to help develop Cornwall Bridge, particularly to update with enhanced traffic patterns, parking, EV stations, and signage. You probably have been seeing these roundtables announced, and they're gaining traction. It's getting exciting. So at CCS, we have new inverters installed and a new monitoring system implemented. And this has been linked with SCT's Yukon initiative to use the Federal Energy Star Portfolio Manager program, which monitors the usage and identifies areas for improvement. The program creates reports and compares our school to similar schools in order to make realistic suggestions for energy conservation. Lastly, on air quality, the Western Connecticut Clean Air Monitoring Project established public concern, wind patterns that create wells of pollution along the Housatonic, and a complexity that requires more sophisticated and more expensive instruments that we cannot afford as a town. DEEP has purchased a vehicle outfitted with state-of-the-art equipment. We are working with Maria Horn to secure a position on that vehicle schedule so that our region is properly monitored for air quality. Other projects that will come up this year are town composting, added solar to CCS, invasive species management, and native replanting. The natural resources inventory that we've talked about in previous years has been transferred to the CCC website as an updatable document. And that's basically the short of it. I kept it short. Thank you for your committees for your participation in SCT, and I encourage you to go to sct.org to look at all the resources that they have. Many towns are working on the similar problems, and you will find many interesting case studies and resources, as well as funding for some of your efforts. So that's at sustainablect.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. I want to comment on something that many of the speakers here have talked about. They've used the word partnership. And you have been referred to working with the EDC, and Michelle partnered and the Park and Rec partnered with lots of different organizations. I think that is a sign of strength in a town when people and organizations partner with each other. Just an editorial comment. I have the last report, and it's what P&Z was up to. It's brief because we spent a good part of the year finishing our reformatting project of the regulations, trying to make them more accessible to ordinary people. We did see some outcomes from regulation amendments that were passed in past years. So in the economic sphere, 3 new home-based businesses came to Cornwall as a result of our zoning amendment of 2021. We also approved our first application under the amended agricultural regulations that were passed in 2019, resulting in a new type of agricultural business being approved. We were required to address the new state statute that legalized some cannabis-related businesses. We held a survey of town resident attitudes, which yielded 171 responses. Overall, about 2/3 of the respondents were in favor of allowing cannabis-related businesses and 1/3 were opposed. In the end, the commission felt it would be in the town's best interest to wait a while before we make any decisions, because we really, the state hadn't actually finalized all of its regulations or worked out a lot of kinks in the system. And we also felt it would be prudent to wait and see what the outcome would be in some of our neighboring towns who are nevertheless moving ahead. We're aware of at least one town that ultimately had buyer's remorse and reversed their decision on allowing cannabis businesses. So there is currently a moratorium on such businesses until the end of May 2025. If things change significantly, of course, the Planning and Zoning Commission can take it up again at any time between now and then. In the housing sphere, there were 3 zoning permits for new homes this past year, as well as 5 accessory dwelling units, 3 on residential properties and 2 in a business property that have not yet been finalized. In the midst of a widely perceived housing crisis that certainly has affected Cornwall, as already mentioned by Ginny, the commission also passed an amendment to make it easier for applicants to create new accessory dwelling units. And this will continue to be our main theme this coming year as we next take up a discussion of other housing issues, such as the lack of opportunities to have duplexes or triplexes in town. I see Nancy Berry here, and she has brought to my attention that there used to be a regulation allowing duplexes, and she is in fact correct. Somehow that fell away. It's not clear to me how, but we hope to bring it back. And that's the end of my report for the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I just have one paragraph to add at the end, because I want you to wrap it up at the end, but can I add two pieces, one for the Inland Wetlands Commission?
Of course.
And the other one for NCD and WCD. Under goals to protect water quality, it was suggested that the Inland Wetlands Commission address and update floodplain regulations. When we speak about partnership, when I spoke to Bart this afternoon about what the Housatonic River Commission can do with some of the funding, floodplain, I think in the past year with the changes in storms that we've had, I know Gordon and I have been feeling a little bit underwater, and that's both in a literal and figurative sense. And we do need floodplain regulations updated. We need new floodplain maps, which will alleviate some of the issues that we're seeing with people trying to develop, for instance, a little guild that is operating under floodplain maps that were created back in the 70s. So that's going to be a partnership with my office, hopefully with the Housatonic River Commission, and to deal with some of the environmental issues associated with the changes in our climate. The other thing, the sustainable piece that is in sustainable CT is again under protecting water quality, the NWCD LISD manual, low impact.
Could you help people understand all those letters you
Okay.
just?
LID means low impact development, and it basically means a new way of developing land in a fashion that works with the land, not against it. It addresses water quality. It addresses just higher levels of understanding how to build, how to change the landscape in a fashion that is going to be protective of our water resources, drinking water, and water that's needed for agriculture, water that's needed for habitat. And the sustainable is part of the sustainable CT piece, to mean that we don't want to just build a community. we want to build a community that is sustainable for future generations. So
Okay.
this is the LID, low impact development, the manual that was created by NWCD,
Oh, wait, NWCD.
Northwest Conservation District, where I worked for many years and helped create the.
And this is a quasi-state organization, is it not?
We are, all conservation districts were created in the 1930s as in response to the Dust Bowl, because people started seeing what was happening in land development, especially in the Midwest, where fields are being wiped out because of erosion, unprotected soils. And so conservation districts have worked through the years in hand with the Department of Agriculture to address better management of agricultural fields, agricultural soils, and soils in general. That's why the soil and water conservation districts exist. So as we've all moved forward and started to understand that to see all of our towns, whether it be Cornwall or in New Hartford, where I live, the development patterns that are really under the guidelines of the Planning and Zoning Commission have to be sustainable so that future generations will have places to live that are sustainable for their generations to come. And that change is what we're talking about in terms of just land development. With the Housatonic River Commission, the wild and scenic designation, the federal the federal government is looking at a beautiful river and what needs to happen to protect it. And as you've heard everybody talking about, whether it be the recreation department or other people, attracting people to Cornwall and to any place with water resources, it's a win-win if you're protective of your water resources. And that's what the low impact sustainable manual created by Steve Trinkus, which we hope to bring to the Planning and Zoning Commission for collaborative effort, would talk about. So that's my little spiel.
Thank you, Karen. And I see Heidi nodding. We recently agreed to partner in bringing this public informational session about LISD, low impact sustainable development, to the town of Cornwall. But that we'll probably have something to say about that at the end of next year. So I guess I'm not too sure whether we need a formal motion to adjourn from a commission member, but I will make the motion. And I will assume that either Will Evans or
I can
Gray,
second.
Christine Gray will second. And so we'll just say goodbye and assume that everyone's in favor. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you, Anna.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you, Anna.
Bye-bye. So Richard, it's over.
I know, I'm waiting till everybody leaves and I can't do anything till it shows up. Great
I'm gonna
report.
we all set? I'm gonna end the meeting.
Go for it.